Hi, my name's Lee Thurburn, and I want to tell you about what I think is an exciting new product. If you're involved in software development, especially if you're involved in vibe coding, the CodeSherpa solves a problem that I think you're going to immediately recognize. That problem is, as you use an AI to write code for you, over time, especially as your project gets larger, you're going to have experienced the following. The AI will begin to slow down, and it will begin to take a lot of time to really generate code. And there's very little that you can do to speed that up other than eventually refreshing and creating a new session, at which point in time you have to train the AI because it forgets. It does not remember your project, especially if you have a large project. So the CodeSherpa solves this problem. It basically preserves and maintains your project's engineering intelligence. Effectively, the CodeSherpa becomes your AI's long-term persistent memory. It's really very simple. You have products like GitHub and GitLab that will remember your code, and you have ways of documenting the design of your project. But CodeSherpa actually remembers everything about your project. It knows the complete structure, the architecture, all the database schemas, the code functions, what they do, everything. Now, the CodeSherpa has been designed very specifically for people that are developing projects on Cloudflare using workers and pages. And the CodeSherpa will work with almost any project on almost any platform. All you have to really do is effectively think in terms of how it equates to Cloudflare. Now, if you're not familiar with Cloudflare, Cloudflare has things called workers and pages, and then of course a whole bunch of ancillary capabilities like data tables and so forth. And Cloudflare workers are essentially equivalent to servers, and pages are essentially worker equivalent to static web assets. And of course, D1, R2, KV, these are things that are just different types of storage. So what happens is the CodeSherpa becomes intimately familiar with your project because you go through the following steps as CodeSherpa becomes knowledgeable about your project. Well, the first thing that you do with CodeSherpa is you create a project. That's very simple. It takes just about a minute or two. And then you create workers for each worker or server. And this is where you're going to make a backup of your data. Not your data, sorry. Make a backup of your code. So you'll copy, whether it's directly from Cloudflare or whether it's from your GitHub or GitLab repository, you'll copy your code and you'll paste it in the backup that you've created or the backup space that you've created as a worker. Then you'll click a button that causes the CodeSherpa to index all of the functions that you've created. And from that point, the system then has a perspective of your entire code base. You then go through a detailed analysis of each function where the AI looks at that function, looks at all of its connections, what it calls, what it connects to, what database schemas it calls, and builds a summary of an analysis of that function. Now, the next layer is that it's going to do effectively the same thing for the worker. And it's going to take all of the function analyses and look at those, and it's going to develop a worker capability analysis. After it's developed the worker's capability analysis, it'll develop a worker architecture analysis. Now, you may have a project with just one worker, but many sophisticated projects will have multiple workers. I'm going to do a different video that's going to show you the project that I've developed on Cloudflare, which is 14 different workers with 250,000 lines of code. And each worker does something different, special, and they all talk to each other. But it's designed specifically to be able to keep track of all of that. So you'll have both a worker capability analysis and a worker architecture analysis for however many workers that you have. You also, with a click of a button, can develop a schema analysis where the system will know all of the database tables in your databases. And then you'll develop a project intelligence analysis, which is sort of the 60,000-foot high-level layer of understanding what the project does. At this point in time, you've now done everything that you need to train the CodeSherpa AI on your project. And now you can start using it. You can do things like create prompt packages. And this is where CodeSherpa's power really comes into play. When you develop a prompt package, you basically create a complete prompt with all of the context history that's needed for a fresh AI session, and it doesn't matter what AI you use. It could be Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT or Cursor or any of the AIs that are popular. You're going to develop the prompt package, which you're then going to give to that AI, which then has everything that it needs to know exactly what to send you back in the way of new edits, new functions, changes, whatever it is that you want to create. So you go to CodeSherpa, you ask it to develop a prompt to accomplish a particular coding goal, and then you take the prompt package that it generates, you give it to your AI, and then the response that you get back is going to be perfectly configured for the project enhancement that you're working on. You're not going to have to worry about slow AI responses because it's going to be a fresh AI. So effectively, CodeSherpa becomes a third-party context history that enables you to always run your AI at maximum speed and avoid any of the rigorous training and bringing it up to speed that you have to do as your AI typically starts to fill up and slow down and need to be refreshed. So that's how you use CodeSherpa. Enjoy. I think you're going to find this to be a fabulous tool. I know it's helped me a lot. Thank you.